Yeah.
The double dance.
Woo!
All right, everybody, welcome to podcast number 94. Today we got a special guest. What I'm going to do is instead of giving him an intro, I'm going to read one of his Facebook posts that I found on his Facebook. I thought it was very impactful, very powerful. So all I need is about 40 seconds of your time. So listen to this. Next time you see and judge that homeless person, very powerful. So 18.8 years ago, I was so addicted to alcohol, crack cocaine, pills, next time and whatever else would help me escape. I was obsessed. 18.8 became that homeless person right after Christmas, and I began couch serving at couch surfing at different friends' places. Then I would move on. Living in seedy hotels for weeks at a time, and sometimes nice ones when I could manage it. That all ended, and I began wandering the streets at times, wishing my friends would find me. For weeks at a time, so cold. I would heat up where I could and just keep moving, resting inside garbage enclosures, or bus stops. The level of violence and insanity was horrendous. The hospital visits from 2 overdoses and getting stabbed in my leg was the only place I felt safe. The things I was doing to support my habit was unspeakable. Unshaven, no haircut for months and months, carrying gym bags were the only possessions I had left. One day in a hotel room, I tried to end it. Unshaven, no haircut for months and months, was hospitalized. I was that person you see saying that after I entered the social system starting at the Health Science Center Hospital, I was in treatment for 5 months. Today, I was relearning how to live, self-sacrifice, and my sobriety. I went on to winning multiple provincial, national, and international awards for speaking and community leadership. I've been on numerous TV shows, 3 documentaries, and newspapers, well over 25 times. Published author and a movie being made on my book. I've been on numerous TV shows, accredited entry OT volunteer in corrections, third-level NCCP boxing coach, professional caregiver, and a chair and president of 47 corrections homeless third-level NCCP. Truly think I was being prepared. I truly think I was being prepared to understand the human psyche from the inside. In some social circles, I've been judged, criticized, and bashed for my mental illness by the very professionals that took oaths to be non-judgmental. I've given up my life and my spare time to be of service, not 9 to 5. I'm on the go, sometimes 12, 14 hours a day for over a decade now. I don't need no pat on the back, and that's not why I post this. I'm on the go, sometimes 12, 14 hours a day for over a decade. Wow, that's an impactful Facebook post right there. That was just recently, right? Yeah. So what made you? What was going on in your head at that particular moment that you decided to put that much onto Facebook? That was just recently, right? Yeah. So what
I've
made
been
you?
around
What was going on in your head at that
frontline
particular
social
moment that you
services
decided to put that much onto
12 years,
Facebook?
15
That was just
years, and 18 years, and I just find like especially as it pertains to myself, like like I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I have mental illness,
okay.
and when I'm in certain situations, or even when I'm walking in the mall, or and was applicable when I would be fighting in boxing,
Hmm.
and it's like try having 1,000 things going through your mind, flashbacks of abuse, like this is in stressful situations, and trying to navigate the most simple thing of taking your wallet out while you're thinking about 1,000 different things at once.
Uh, I know that was a very generalized question, so let me kind of break it down based on your post. Okay, I wanted to go back, and you said that. By the way, Roland Vandal. That's our guest name. I feel like I forgot to say that right from the beginning. Um, let's start with your addiction. So 18, 19 years ago, you were so addicted to alcohol, crack cocaine, pills, and whatever else would help you escape. And then you also just mentioned that you were abused. I'm
Mhm.
assuming that's as a child.
I was sexually and physically abused by 6 different people.
And at what age were you at this?
As really as far back as I can kind of remember, maybe like 11, 12 years old, 10 years old.
Really, eh? You know,
Yeah.
we just had a guest on the other week, last week, who was the same thing. He wasn't abused by 6 different people, just by one. But what exactly does sexual abuse look like? I feel like a lot of people are sexually abused, and I know this might be a tough question, and maybe I shouldn't even ask it. But what specifically happens when you're abused as a child? What is somebody doing to a kid?
It's just the inappropriate behavior. Like I don't want to. I don't, it doesn't serve any purpose for me to get specific, but
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because that just hurts me. I mean, I relive my trauma all the time. I don't need
Okay,
to do
fair
it.
enough. Yeah.
And anyways, but like just inappropriate stuff like and older people preying on younger people,
Yeah.
and it just comes a point where it's just not cool, right? And I was abused by a boxing coach on a trip.
Mm.
I quit boxing after that, and moreover, the physical abuse and the bullying, it actually changed my behavior, and it changed changed me,
Okay.
and I became aggressive, and I became, like I became the entertainment for my brother and his friends, and there was a lot of yucky stuff that happened, right? Like a lot of gross, inappropriate stuff.
Mm.
What did I do? I gravitated towards the tough guys, and they protected me, right? And
Yeah.
I used to cut myself.
Really, eh?
I used to sit there and cut myself and scrape at my skin, and I was just a kid. And
You have parents at this point?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Both parents were in your life at that point?
yeah.
Yeah.
My dad was alcoholic. He was a good man.
Okay.
My mom, good woman. She worked for the government,
Yeah.
but she would just hide upstairs, and she'd get lost in her Harlequin romance books. That was her thing.
Okay.
She'd have stacks of them beside her bed.
Yeah.
And my brother and his bully buddies, they all had the run of the house, and my dad would be passed out at the table, and I'd come home, and I'd fuck this, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm out of here. I'd go sleep in the park. I'd go to friends' houses.
And this is all at a young age, like 10, 12, 14, 16 years old, somewhere in
Yeah,
there? Yeah.
yeah, all through there, yeah.
So your parents were in your life, but not really.
And you know what?
Physically
And
there, but passed out or reading books, basically, right?
yeah, like
Yeah.
my mind was always changing, or they'd be at the bar. They'd never really be home, right? So,
Okay.
like they'd always be at the local pubs, and it is what it is, right? Like I try not to be too hard on my parents, because you know what I mean. Like if my mom, if I put myself, well, I'll put it to you this way: when I opened up a specialized youth home, and I take care of really high risk kids, it took me to go through that. I had some wild boys, like good guys, though, you know what I mean. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean. They're used to the doing what they want when they want, and so to have rules is really hard for them, right?
Yeah.
And it took that for me to go. I called my mom. This was about 3 years ago, and I went and I sat down there and I said, "Mom, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And she needed to hear that, right?
Like, you're sorry
I'm sorry
for what?
For what?
for judging her all the time,
Mm.
because that was, but for the grace of God, there go I, right? Like my home that I lived in, my brother and all of his buddies, his parties there all the time. My mom
Mhm.
was hiding upstairs. She didn't want to face it, right? And she has all these boys, and her husband's passed out, and my dad was a hardworking guy, but he was always drinking. And my mom hid upstairs, and she just gave up.
Yeah.
Like we had a wild family, right? So
Yeah. Funny, actually, I just wrote that down when you said this, that you forgave your mom. I actually just wrote, "Don't blame their parents," and I feel like that's very awesome of you to say that out loud. Because
it
a lot,
took me a long time, bro, man. Like
yeah,
seriously, like took me a long time.
because anybody else that we've talked to in this podcast or a conversation that I've ever had, they always look back, and it's usually the kind of the parents' fault, right? They weren't part of the life. The dad was a non-existent type father, and that's sort of the blame game.
And by proxy, the moms always take the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Why?
Yeah, that's
Why?
true.
Because we all know that our moms are always going to be there,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
Totally.
So yeah. So no, I just think that was a real cool statement that you just made there.
So your brother and you guys, how's the relationship now?
I don't talk to him.
Haven't been
No,
talking to him ever.
no.
Okay.
To the brother.
Yeah.
Okay. How many years has that been that you haven't spoken?
Once in a while over the last 18 years since I got sober, but
You still
y-
harbor a lot of hate and resentment towards him,
I don't
or
like. I'm
or why?
okay with it. I just don't want nothing to do with him.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
He's never changed. He's a greasy, deadbeat kind of guy, and
Yeah.
like he's just him and all his buddies were like that, right?
Yeah.
And like and I'm not afraid to say it. And whatever I say, I'll say to someone's face.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother is just not a nice person,
Mm.
and
Okay.
he's not a good person.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be around the fucking guy,
So,
right?
so let me ask
fair
you
enough.
this. Let me
Fair
ask you
enough.
this. Do you think that because he's your family, that they should get a special pass? Meaning, you always have a soft spot in your heart for your family, right? Like
Yeah.
you can just get rid of people, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
I don't, this guy's just a buddy of mine, gone
Yeah.
forever. Do you think that that is something that you should do with your family if the relationship is
I don't see
like
why
that?
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've done it, so
Yeah.
I agree.
like
I
Do
agree.
they get special privileges, like special
I
passes,
want
or is that
nothing to
over?
do with my brother.
Yeah.
I wish the best for him because he has people that love him
Hmm.
and he has kids and stuff like that. So I want the best for the guy, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? But I don't want nothing to do with him,
How do
right?
you feel
So
about your own question?
I think that he's right. I think that there's certain lines where you try to do your best, but at the same time, if they're bringing you down and you're looking at every angle and you tried your best and they're not trying their best, I think
mhm.
there's a point where you got to let people sink.
But it's family. You got to keep trying forever and
Yeah.
ever.
Nah, that's
Other,
bullshit.
yeah.
Bullshit.
You know, I like it. I love it. I
Yeah.
agree 100%. I'm a huge believer of who you surround yourself with, and you got to cut out the toxicity in your life.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes it's just family.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
know?
I did a talk in Ontario. I'm a motivational speaker, and I spoke on a panel with a bunch of doctors. And they said a person like me
Mm-hmm.
will go to the family doctor. All of a sudden, you'll get prescribed antidepressants, and get prescribed all these wonderful drugs that's going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
And maybe they work, maybe they don't. I don't know. I've never been on that stuff. But
Mhm.
but they said immediately, and these were really educated people. They said if you take that same person and you remove them from their immediate circle and you put them in a healthier circle,
Mm.
the hospital visits stop,
Yep.
the
Mm.
prescription meds stop. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, that's been one of the keys to my success has
So
been surrounding myself with the right people.
yeah,
You know,
we're a
for sure.
product of our environment.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I used to hate when people said that when I was a kid.
A product of your
You know?
environment. Yeah,
Because now it's
because
coming
you knew
back.
it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You knew they were right, and you hated it.
So
Yeah.
would you say, with people that have gone through trauma of any sorts, what would you say is the best, or what would you say is the approach that worked for you to overcome that obstacle? Because a lot of people would have trauma in various forms, and it would hold them down forever.
I think the biggest thing is the ego.
Yeah.
Why people feel they have to go through life and have it all together, and you know what I
Mm.
mean, like, and not show weakness, and like that's old school. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like that's old school kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know, and like when I've spoken at old folks' homes and stuff like that, and I've told them, you know, respectfully, because I respect older people,
Yeah.
like you should be so lucky that all you had to do was walk uphill both ways in the middle of winter in the
Yeah.
freezing cold. Because if you had to grow up in this generation with all the techie stuff and
Oh yeah.
all the craziness,
Yeah.
social media and like emails, texting, like
Yeah.
if you had to grow up in this area, you'd probably be depressed too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think you're 100% correct about being authentic, right?
Yeah.
Is basically what you're trying to say.
hmm
Especially when you're putting out your stories, is people will read through your bullshit in about 5 seconds,
Yeah.
right? If you're not telling the truth. And actually, I just had this conversation with my wife. We were talking about a certain thing that I guess I won't say it because she doesn't want it to be known, but I put it out there. I put everything out there. I put out, like the fact that I get Botox, for example. Like
Yeah.
and I tell people about it just because I think it's a great way to improve your overall look. If that's what you're concerned with. I used to be a drug.
Hey everybody, this guy gets Botox.
Yeah, and I just got fillers for the first time in these lines.
You're
right
not
here.
allowed to come to the boxing club.
Don't worry, you can make me ugly again. Punch me a few times in the face. But like I also used to have a drug problem back in the day. I was on high on cocaine for 3 years, and I put it out there because I just feel like a lot of people can relate, and you just become a little more real,
Mhm.
right? So that's why I feel like guys like you are really successful in the motivational space because
I get bashed
people
all the
need
time,
to hear
buddy.
that. Well, bashing you for what though?
I don't know.
Well, give me an example. And like, who would bash you, and what would they bash you for?
Like I don't know. I just hear murmurs. I hear lots of stuff. Like you know what? I've done a lot in my life, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, and it's not. It's been mostly from people that are in my recovery life.
You still
Or
got to give me
What do
an
you mean by
example.
that? Yeah.
What
Recovery
do you
life.
mean?
like
So other ex-alcoholics or ex-drug addicts are saying shit about you in a negative way?
I've heard murmurs back, but who knows what to believe, right?
Right.
Like it just seems like every I don't know.
So just
It's weird.
rumors.
So do you think with success,
It's a lonely road, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think that
I don't want to come off like it's hard. It's really hard to explain these kinds of situations because I don't want to come off as cocky, right? But like you know, like
yeah, but you're speaking to us, so we understand it. So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you're saying, we understand, right?
Yeah.
So you're just talking to us. So tell us exactly what
it just
what
seems
is.
the more successful I
Yeah.
get,
Yeah.
the more people talk shit. I've even had heard back people talking about that I've lied in my book and I've lied
Yeah.
in my documentaries and always a liar and who the
Yeah.
fuck does he think he is?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
You're
Like,
probably somebody who would never ever share a minute of their story, but they want to
yeah,
shit all
like
over you,
I'm
right?
an open book, man. You got
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book
Yeah.
Yeah.
is because you want to talk shit about me? Well, it's in the book,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's not it's common knowledge, right?
So
Yeah.
so
So
let me ask you this. Is it the responsibility of the person that's talking all that smack, or is it the responsibility of you to be able to take the smack?
if if you like I'm in 12 step and anyways like
Tell us what 12 step is for people that don't know.
well, I need to stay anonymous with that, but
Okay.
I'm in the 12 step movement and
It's like a recovery program.
recovery program,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
And anyways like the biggest thing is recovering your sense of self. Like what do we lose in life? Maybe through the years, maybe through abuse, maybe
Mhm,
through violence, maybe
mhm,
through a breakup, maybe through who knows.
mhm,
But where somewhere down the line I got lost and what did I lose? Maybe I was conscious of it or maybe I wasn't, but at one point, you know, when kids are they're running around, they don't give a shit what anybody thinks, they're jumping off swing sets and like blah 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 and like that's the most pure we could be, you know what I mean?
mhm.
And then over time we develop all these prejudices and contemptuous ideas towards life
Yeah,
and um and next thing you know you lose your sense of self.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost and maybe I never even knew I had it, but I at one point when I was that free type of soul, I subconsciously maybe had that relationship with a higher power,
Mhm.
Okay.
a God of my own understanding, and then you lose that through trauma, through abuse, and you stop trusting anybody or anything, and then so when I got into recovery, that's the first thing you do is you got to work on your relationship with people. Don't some people don't like the word, but God,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
your creator.
Mhm,
I find that a lot of recovering addicts go to God, like
mhm.
almost all of them,
Yeah,
and I wonder why.
because you
Like
put
I know you just explained the whole thing, but why does it have to be God? Why can't it just be any higher power? Why can't it just be like a star in the sky or
well that's the
I don't
whole crux of it is your own conception of a higher power.
okay.
Mm,
And my higher power is my dad.
mhm.
Is he still alive?
No, he
He's
died
not.
died when I was 25.
So what do you mean by that? Your higher powers are dead.
I pray to my dad all
Oh,
the time.
got it,
Oh,
got
I
it, got
see.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And you,
I don't I honestly and I respect religion. My you know some of my best friends are very religious and that's cool. It makes them better people.
Mhm.
I don't believe in a I don't believe in a guy with a cane and a beard
Okay.
with long hair up there
Yeah.
on a cloud calling me a sinner
Yeah.
Yeah.
and watching me get abused all through my young life
Yeah.
hmm
and watching other people get abused, watching women get abused.
Yeah.
If there is that kind of a God up there looking and watching that happen,
Mhm,
that's not no kind of God I want to
Yeah.
believe in.
But
mhm.
maybe somebody would say, well, God put those challenges in front of you to turn you into the man that you are today,
I think that way too.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess you could take the positive out of that statement there.
Yeah, and then like I heard and it changed my thinking too.
hmm
God only gives you enough that you can handle at one time.
Yep.
I don't
So do you
know.
think that everybody should believe in a higher spirit than themselves? Or do you think there's people that believe in just everything that they do is self-governed?
I think there I think that people are allowed to believe whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And everybody in this room and everybody around here um they're allowed to believe in their own conception of a higher power, and that's nobody's business.
Hmm.
Do you still crave drugs? You still
No,
crave the booze?
no.
Ever? Not even for 1 minute, for one day a month?
Sometimes I'd like to when I'm in a pissed off mood.
Yeah.
hmm
I'd like to go get a hotel room and go on a bender for. But they say in recovery that you pick up exactly where you left off, and if that's the
Mm.
case, and that's the truth, because I've never relapsed, right? And
Hmm.
if that's the case, I'm dead.
So is that your reason why you don't go and have a 2-day bender, 3-day bender?
I honestly have no desire to do it.
Yeah.
I never have since the day I got sober.
Yeah. I agree with that because I was never a huge druggie and this and that, but I partied pretty hard for about 3 years straight.
Mhm.
And I haven't had a like, and then I cut it out. A drink. It used to be once during the weekday and then twice during the weekend, kind of thing. And then
Mhm.
it just weekends, once a week, once a month. And now I haven't touched a drink or partied in almost a year and a half, and I have just no desire to stay up late and you know what I mean? Like start
a
my
lot
night
of
off at
things get
11.
a
Like,
lot of things get solved with growth and maturity, right?
yeah,
Like,
there's
uh,
other things to do, I think.
yeah.
I think that stuff is something to do at that time. And then you just eventually evolve out of it. But you have to
Hmm.
want to evolve out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we rewind this a little bit? How did you become homeless? Like what was the process of that? Because I know you were like you were doing drugs and drinking lots, but at some point in time you were living in a home. And then I want to know, how did you go from in a home and then to the streets? And then I want to know, what's it like living on the streets?
Me too.
Well, I just became so irresponsible with everything, right? Like, and you give up and you
Okay.
choose drugs over everything,
Mm.
and
So every ounce, every dollar you got, just immediately
everything I
swapped it
did
out. Yeah.
was for
To
the
get
way I
drug.
lived my life was based around partying.
Okay.
You made one statement here that I'd like you to elaborate on if you can, and it was about how the things that you did. You did some bad things for drugs. I can't remember how you worded it here. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I was just in that scene. I was involved in a lot of violent actions and behaviors, and I always try to stay away from. I don't like to get specific on anything because it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be said. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Is it fair to say you did crime for drugs? Could we
Yeah,
leave it at something like that?
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
because I don't want to sensationalize, especially if there's younger people watching.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's no need. Like, there's enough in the rap videos for them to be sensationalized, and you
Yeah.
know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to be one of those people, right? So
Yeah.
Mm.
No. Fair enough.
I don't
Okay.
need to puff myself up just to make a point,
Yeah.
right? So
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 back.
so going back with so you basically gave it all up to live the party life, and then eventually you just became did you find yourself getting lower and lower
totally,
and lower, and like
yeah.
the people that you're hanging around with became, because to get to the homeless, like how do you get from a state of like, living with your parents and then maybe living on your own, then all of a
Well,
sudden
I
you're
owned
just
a
on the
house when I
streets?
was 21 years old. I was always a grinder, eh? Like,
Yeah.
I always was working hard and like,
Like if you were like this when you were 12, like how you went through, you would not be here. Like let's
mhm,
just face it. So there's a progression, a downward progression.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just like, but there's this spin factor too. Like, as my addictions got progressively worse, like I had a lot of hospital visits, right?
Mm.
And I've had a lot of injuries. Like, I was always in the hospital for something. And but as my addictions became progressively worse, um, they also when I got into recovery, it became progressively better.
Hmm.
Mm.
So
I said you got stabbed here. Was that in a fight?
yeah, in a back lane in downtown, yeah.
Okay. So that it was that. I mean, you said there was lots of violence and things that you had to deal with. Describe that. Just other homeless people. Your guys were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like, and it was actually a pretty fancy hotel. And then I was in the back lane, and it just got really heated, and knife came out, and then the guys ran away. So,
Mm.
Okay.
um,
So can you define what being homeless is? Because the majority, I've never really spoken this close intimately to a
yeah.
homeless guy. So what was homelessness to you?
So there was a brief period where, so anyways, as I was couch surfing, as I was going from
Okay.
address to address, and you know what I mean, and like, like that's why one of the reasons why, um, when I get these high risk youth, I tell them, I said, you know what, when I go to bed, you don't have to go on your tippy toes and go to the fridge and sneak some milk. I buy all that food. It's for you, man.
Yeah.
Have what you want, eat what you want. It's all good. I don't care. I get funding to buy groceries.
Yeah.
It's your house. Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Like,
This is in
cause
that 47-person facility that
no,
you're.
this is in my house. I have a foster home,
Oh. Oh. Okay.
and
Okay.
so anyways, I yeah, like, it's there was nothing more demeaning to me personally, and I just wanted a glass of milk so bad.
Hmm.
And I would wait for everybody to go to bed in the house, and I would tiptoe and sneak a glass of milk like I was doing something wrong.
So you must have been terrified. I mean, if waiting till everybody goes to sleep to tiptoe to get milk, that means that anything you did down there, your brothers and his friends are on top of you for something, right?
I mean, no, I mean when I was sleeping at somebody else's house,
Oh, I
Oh
see.
which
yeah,
was
yeah.
often,
I see. I
Right,
see.
yeah.
right, right.
Okay.
Okay, so then how did you get to the streets? Like, is it on the streets or were you going
Well,
to
skip ahead. I
shelters?
was I was 25 years old. My dad died, and like I was telling you guys, and then I opened up a hair salon,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
I had a hair salon, tanning shop, jewelry shop, and I was selling a lot of cocaine, right,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
like lots,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and anyways, I ran the like we did well. We got named one of the top hair salons in Winnipeg, and it was right across the street from Earl's,
Mm.
and so you know what I mean. Like I was very immature and still party, and and after I lost that, then I lost my house. Um, I was always partying. I was always across the street at Earl's or Grapes on Main. That was my
Flash
Yeah.
throwback.
yeah.
Yeah.
So because of your lack of attention to your business, it just went downhill.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And at this point, were you
There was 13 stylists working there at one point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tanning shop, jewelry shop.
Yeah.
I was doing well for myself, and
Yeah.
it was successful, right?
Yeah.
So
But
Yeah.
you were taking money to
yeah,
pay for.
yeah. I was taking the money from the business to pay for my drugs
Yeah.
and my partying and sitting at
Your
Earl's
partying
and
outweighed your making.
yeah,
Yeah.
Your spending outweighed your.
yeah.
So then you went on the streets and like, were you?
Well, after I lost my house, I remember how bleak it was. Lost my business, and then I had my house on Monroe, and which I bought when I was 21, and and I was sitting there, and the lights went out, and the hydro got cut off, and I was sitting there with candles, doing drugs, and then eventually I just took what I could, put it in my van, and I went and lived in my van. Then the van went. It's the progression, right?
Mm,
Like you're talking about,
yeah.
and then the van went, and then I was going to people's houses, and then you burn that out, and then eventually, and then I ended up hanging out with some street people, and they had this guy that had a lot of money, and so we were partying, and going from hotel to hotel, and skipping bills, and eventually just all stopped, right? And I was wandering around and aimlessly by myself, and nowhere to go, and nowhere to get there, no way to get there, and like and it was the end, and I had had enough. It was so hard. It was so hard, and then I tried to kill myself. Uh, I had well, I took a bunch of methadone, and I drank a bottle of methadone, and I went to sleep, and I wrote a suicide note to my son, and did I checked out.
Hmm.
Mm.
And then you woke up,
And then I woke up. Yeah,
and then that was the day.
that was the day. I woke up, and I went to the bathroom, both places,
Hmm.
and threw up everywhere. And luckily, the methadone didn't stay in my body. And I still don't even, to this day, I don't even know if you can. I'm sure you can die from that much methadone. Like I was very unhealthy as it was, wasn't eating, and anyways, I got up, showered off, called my mom, and she came and got me.
So that was your rock bottom moment.
That was it.
Yeah.
I haven't had the desire to use drugs or drink since that day.
That's crazy. That's
Mhm.
crazy that you had
Just like that, it was
no
gone.
yeah.
So how did you get out of that?
That's a
Like,
mental shift for
that's
sure.
because that's the hardest part about relapsing is going through the pain. Because after that, like
Yeah.
you probably went through a lot of pain for a little while.
Well, the whole thing about I believe the misconception about an addict or alcoholic or problem gambler or there's there's over 300 different models of 12-step recovery out there, right? And you name it, Families Anonymous, Sex and Love Addictions Anonymous, AA, CA, NA, like there's over 300 of them, right? And the whole problem for me wasn't drugs and alcohol. That was my solution.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like it worked for me, but then it stopped working.
Hmm.
And then being sober and living life sober and being happy and content and facing the day and and living a good happy life,
Mhm.
that's the problem.
Mm.
So if you can't find happiness sober, a
Mhm.
person's always going to go back and drink or use drugs
Mhm.
or go sit at the VLTs for 8 hours when they're supposed to be at work.
Right.
You
Is there
know,
anything
like
wrong with that? Being happy? Because some people
no.
will look at it like if you're too happy, people are not. They're looking at you weird.
But that's the unhappy people are looking
Yeah.
at the happy people.
Yeah.
It's called
Yeah.
projection, right?
Mm-hmm.
People will project their insides onto everybody around them,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and
Maybe that's what people shit on you for.
Yeah.
Maybe
maybe
because you're doing well.
I try to be positive. I'm
Yeah.
outgoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like people liked it better when I was depressed, and
You'll find more people around you that way.
it's weird.
100%.
But
Yeah.
you know what? I have really good friends, and
Mhm.
my close friends, like my best friends, like I'm very blessed and very lucky,
Mhm.
and I have really strong women, and it's a through line. They're actually going to be making this part of the movie, the through line about how a person like myself with trauma related issues and how I grew up and blah blah blah, blah and like I find people like my mom or my ex-wife and her mom, like I went there all the time, right, since I was about 14, 15 years old. I basically lived at my girlfriend's at the time, who became my wife,
Hmm.
who became my ex-wife, and
Okay.
now she's my best friend.
Okay.
Interesting.
So, do you have bad days or do you have bad moments?
I do.
Like, is there bad times?
I do.
So, what do you do to get yourself out of that moment or time? And then, what do you expect or what would you like your friends to do to get you out of that bad moment or bad time?
Sometimes just listen.
Yeah.
I like I have some really close friends, and we talk daily,
Hmm.
and we laugh at how crazy we are. And that thinking, you know what I mean? Like I need to stay busy, but I need to earn my downtime.
Hmm.
And I know that my thinking is not reality, because everybody outside of myself would say, well, what are you talking about?
Hmm.
But from the time I was a little kid, I'm no good. I'm all alone. I can't do anything right. What's the point anyhow? That person's better than me. I'm short. My skin's too white. That guy's better looking than me. Oh, she doesn't want nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Like if I like I learned how to pray that shit away, right?
Hmm.
So, and I do practice prayer all the time. I don't
Hmm.
even know what I believe in, but I do. I follow the program of the 12-step program, and anyways, and it works for me, and I know none of it's real.
Hmm.
I know I'm a good person. I understand that. Why do I go through life comparing myself to everybody around me? What's the point? And now
Hmm.
it's worse on social media, right?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I gotta shut that. I gotta shut it down.
Yeah.
And uh,
Social media detox.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like not necessarily shut it down. I don't believe that. It's all about personal management, right?
Hmm.
Like, I need to manage myself better. That's the better word
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Do you unfollow people? Do you
Oh
make a
yeah.
conscious effort to on a regular basis unfollow 5, 10, 15 people or anybody who comes up negative in your feed?
One, if they do it once, they're gonna do it again, and I block
Mm.
them. One negative comment, and I block them.
Nice.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah, I do
That's
too.
actually a good point. So this is one of the questions I want to ask you, being a fighter, and I want to bring it around to Rick as well. So anger management.
Mhm.
So for anybody, it doesn't have to be just guys,
Yeah.
girls as well. And I'll give you an example. I saw a post yesterday, and Rick was the butt end of this before, where somebody had posted an opinion about something, and I read the post, and immediately it was mob mentality,
Mhm.
right? So the person on the other end wrote something very brash, very harsh that she would probably never say to anybody's face, but out of her thought and anger, she just posted something very negative.
You know what? The kids in my I deal with the real deal street kids. Like
Yeah.
one of my boys, like these boys, they changed my life. What they call it is keyboard warriors. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I see it too. Like people will say something
Yeah.
on there and or to you, and
Yeah.
they'll never say it to your face. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? How do you personally deal with anger? Because there's no way that you're just chill all the time.
I
Like,
pray.
you pray.
I
So do you just
pray.
take a brief moment?
I
Like
pause
what?
when agitated. I've taken a lot of wellness
Yeah.
courses, and like I've taken a lot of transformational courses,
Mhm.
and I pray and I ask for strength and direction to do the right thing,
Mhm.
and get me out of myself, and
Mhm.
my ego is my worst enemy, right? So
Mm.
like I can't control anybody. I can't
Mhm.
control anything outside of myself. All
Mhm.
I can do is control how I handle it, right?
Mhm.
And and I'm not perfect. Like sometimes I say stupid shit, whatever. But one thing that's helped me is that I've really trimmed down my circle, hey, because I used to,
Circle of people.
yeah,
Yep.
like I've really,
How
because
many do you have? Do you know the specific number?
I'd say I have a good 5 really good best friends.
Mhm.
It's the same. It's exactly the same as us. It's
Yeah,
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like that's the magic number.
it is,
Yeah,
and that's enough. Who
yeah.
can I like I'm a accredited life coach too, and we're bringing this big thing to Canada right away, and it's all about helping people, and it's a big movement that's all over the world, and it's coming to Canada. We're bringing it to Canada, and called Connections in Recovery, and it's gonna be. I'm sure I'm gonna get bashed for that too.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Like I've gotten multiple international, national, provincial awards for leadership, and you think people would be happy for me? I was fighting for my life in a
Yeah.
hotel room. I used to cut myself. I was physically abused daily, and sexually abused, and like, why can't I be happy?
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, people should just shut the fuck up,
I
man. You
I
know what I
th-
mean?
I th-
Like,
Yeah.
I think just so you know that for every one that is not happy for you, there's 100 that are loving every second of you.
Yeah.
You
it's,
know.
it's hard to see it,
Yeah.
hey?
So you should
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
You should have that outlook on
I
it
think the
instead.
problem is we get so focused on what's wrong versus what's right. So you can have
Big
10
time.
people supporting you and you have that one person that just throws a knife at you.
Why does that matter so much?
Right? That one
Yeah.
Hey,
person that doesn't matter
I,
matters
I
the
do
most.
these
why is
talks.
that?
I do these talks in schools, and this is
Yeah.
a good conversation, you guys, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and like the 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 poor young people, like there's so much pressure out there these
Yeah.
days. Like I just my heart breaks for them, and if
Mm.
and if I can if I and if I can help, and and show them that I'm 49 years old and I still go through the same things, but now with
Mhm.
adults,
Mhm.
and like it gets better though,
Yeah.
right? The older
Mhm.
you get, the better it gets, and it's shitty that it has to be that way,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and
You made a good point here about saying problems get solved with growth and maturity.
Mhm.
So as we get older, we solve problems just based on maybe our ego gets a little bit less, maybe less testosterone's running through our body, et cetera, et cetera.
mhm,
So what are you telling these young dudes, these young cats that are 20 and they're hyper alphas and they're pissed off at the world and they've
Mhm.
got lots of strength and power and they're dealing with social media and they've got all these influences telling them that they're pieces of shit because the guy on Instagram and Facebook is so much better than them.
mhm.
So how are you navigating this as their leader or as their mentor?
Well, at the end of the day, I'm all about the slogans and the catchphrases and stuff like that. It
Yep.
helps, right? So,
I know I got two great ones from you right here.
I heard one. This was years ago, probably 15 years ago. It changed my life, and it's we measure our self worth by our successes. Whether it doesn't mean monetary money successes, but if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
Mhm.
And if it's really important to focus on success, whatever that is for somebody. It doesn't matter, right? That's their own personal journey, but we measure our self-worth by our successes. And if you quit too early and don't finish your goal, you're chipping away at your integrity, and chipping away, chipping away, chipping away, and if you don't follow through and have integrity and start something and finish it, before you know it, you'll be a guy like me at 31 years old, fighting for your life in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Because why? Because I had no integrity. I couldn't honestly look you in the eye and tell you I would be here today
Mm.
at 11:30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how important is it then for somebody or for everybody to have goals?
um, I'm a big believer in plans
Mhm.
because I was the most flaky when I was in my addiction years, and all through my 20s. I was the most flaky, unaccountable person ever.
Mhm.
I had no plans. I would it's really important to understand that coming early. We had this conversation, right, on our messaging, and well, I'll be there early. you know if you're always early, you're never late.
Yeah.
And you can speed up somebody's day that way. You can maybe shave off 15 minutes or half an hour off their day. It's just
Mhm.
being considerate, right?
Mm.
And I was never like that in my 20s. I was a real flake, and it's one of the things that I always wanted to fix about myself, right? And that's probably one of the most important things in my life today is doing what I say I'm going to do, and having integrity,
Yeah.
and not disrupting people's lives, because that's not fair, right?
Mm.
It's
What does that
huge.
mean? Disrupting
Well,
lives.
with if my life is unmanageable, I can easily bleed that into other people's lives.
Mm.
Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, like not showing
Yeah.
up today and leaving us on stranded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
We've had
And
that happen.
and not having a fill-in, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because I didn't program it in my phone properly,
Yeah.
or I never paid attention, or I didn't think it was important enough. And a
What
lot
about
of
fear? What about fear? Because
fear too. That's a factor. Yeah,
people just get in their heads and then they're like, something came up, right?
Paralysis of
yeah.
Analysis. Yeah.
analysis. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I learned in the recovery circles is, I feel like I've recovered my sense of self, and I feel like at 49 years old, I actually feel like a 49-year-old. All my peers, all my peers are really solid people, man. Like if I'm late,
Mm.
I'll hear about it. You know what I mean? And it's not
Mhm.
going to be pretty, right? Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
um, so I go everywhere early,
Mhm.
and it's important.
Yeah. So go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so planning. You're always
Oh yeah,
planning, right?
planning. I believe in in my training as a life coach and all that kind of stuff. Like the most simplest things. Like dumb it down, keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Make a 5-year plan. Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Write it down.
Mm.
And what are all the little things you got to do to get there?
Right.
And keep it in your purse or your wallet. And as you accomplish each little small goal,
Mm-hmm.
check it off.
Mm.
And before you know it, you've accomplished
Mhm.
your 5-year plan, right?
I think that's a good point. I think a lot of people think goals need to be these big, grand, huge things,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they just need to be the most basic stuff.
Mhm.
You know, if it's just like, for example, I bought this new back brace. I
Mm.
just make a point of wearing it once a day for an
Mhm.
hour a day.
Yeah.
It's a small goal, but it's just something that I now it's regular in my routine.
Mhm.
And then those little wins turn into the big ones.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So we got a book. You have a book on the table in front of you there. It's for sale on Amazon, McNally Robinson's, and somewhere else, correct?
It's in all the big bookstore chains. But I'm hearing it's sold out, but I don't know,
Yeah.
right? So,
So that's got to be cool. We have somebody who wrote a book that's sold
yeah.
on Amazon sitting across from us. I mean, that's kind of a big deal.
Well, I wrote the book, but all the praise and glory goes to the editor
Okay.
because
Mm.
she had to edit my writing and she did a
Yeah.
phenomenal job, right? But I
Yeah.
wrote the book, right?
Yeah.
But
I think that's the nature of many books is, the person writing isn't necessarily a book writer,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
They just know how to put their thoughts on paper. So,
Or a good editor,
yeah,
a
yeah.
videographer like Jerome, making us look like
good
pros.
job over there, Jerome.
Yeah. And so we have a movie being shot of your life. That's correct as well.
They're writing the movie right now as we speak, actually, and
Okay. Give us
so
an idea of what that is.
well, it's gonna be based on my book,
Okay.
and
So this is a movie about Roland Vandal.
yeah,
Cool.
my life story,
Okay.
and it's yeah, it's in the works. But you gotta like they've done 3 documentaries now, and like there's lots of stuff, and my website is breakingthechain.ca and hasn't been updated in a while. But anyways, like
Are you on Instagram as well?
yeah,
Okay. What is it?
uh, my name
Okay.
Roland Vandal, yeah,
Yeah.
and so I don't know what was I saying. I can't remember what I was saying.
The-
I'm just curious about your movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and any of these things could fall apart at any time, right?
Yeah.
So it all comes down to money, and it comes down to funding, and
So is this something that you're spearheading, or somebody just decided they're going to do?
Julie, I signed a life rights deal with Julie Jett. She's one of the local film producers,
Okay.
and Jordan Wheeler. He's a famous screenwriter,
Mm-hmm.
and he's writing the movie as we speak. And
Interesting.
he's a really smart, intelligent guy, and he's a really good writer. He's done a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
So how much back and forth do you have with Jordan on this? Like, where are you at in this movie writing?
they're writing the movie, and
Yeah.
I've had a little bit of input, but the input is here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And at the end of the day, they don't want you meddling because you know what I mean. You could really make things complicated, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just have to trust in the process, and that's why I went to L.A. I flew to L.A. and I was gonna sign with some people out there, and but once you sign your life rights thing, they could spin my story into anything they wanted. So I
Right.
decided to go with somebody local,
Okay.
and then I had a little bit of creative control that I put in the contract, so
Mm-hmm.
I could kind of they could spin my story into anything they wanted, right?
Yeah.
So at least I have a little bit of input.
Yeah. Well, one of the good things of doing is at least you're putting your story out there after the fact, like being on this podcast. So if anybody wanted to, do a little research on you, They can spit it and say that you turn into a piece of shit. But here you are telling a great story, being a
Yeah.
great dude, being on time and helping us through this, right?
So Roland,
Yeah.
advice.
Don't
Let's
eat yellow snow.
don't need any of the snow out today. But okay, let's rewind here. Okay, let's
Yeah.
get a little deep. What advice would you tell your 10-year-old self, 20-year-old self, 30-year-old self, 40-year-old self, and then what are you telling yourself when you turn 50?
Holy shit, that's a lot of things to talk about.
I got 1 year to like. You got another hour here because that's a lot of questions.
Give me the 10-year-old. What are you saying to your 10-year-old self? So I'm a parent. My oldest kid is 4. Hopefully he doesn't go through any of that stuff. But I've seen that. I've seen what you've gone through. I've had a good friend, and they did that to another guy in the basement. Same type of thing. And it made me like, it brings back nightmares.
Hmm.
I didn't want anything to do with that, and it was sickening. So what would you
I'd
tell something like that, 10-year
I'd
old
tell the
self?
10-year-old,
Yeah.
my 10-year-old self, that there's no excuse for anybody to impose their will on you and
Mhm.
touch you.
Mhm. It's not all right.
It's not all right,
Yeah.
and that I should tell somebody,
Okay.
and I should have told somebody.
20-year-old self.
20-year-old self is
As you say with a smile.
Put the
Keep
coke away.
going. Keep going for a
yeah,
couple more.
yeah, yeah.
Just ride it out a little
I
bit.
was just getting ready at 20.
Yeah.
I was married at 21,
Yeah.
and
So you were kind of settling in. Is
well,
that what was going on?
I married my junior high school sweetheart Shannon.
Okay.
She's probably one of the biggest stories in my life, right? So she's gonna be a big part of the movie,
Yeah.
and she's happily remarried 27 years,
Mhm.
and we're best friends. She's never bailed on me. She's always been a support to me, and I'm lucky to have her. She's a good woman, good family. She's got a good husband, and they have it. My ex-wife has every reason in the world to hate me,
Hmm.
and she doesn't.
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
So sorry, go back. What was the 20-year-old advice? I
Yeah,
missed it.
what's the advice?
What's the advice?
Don't take things for granted.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
30.
30.
You've got years on us, so I want to know all this.
30. I'd say I'd say again, don't take things for granted and
Okay.
appreciate your solid loyal friends and don't take them for granted and don't hurt others. Be on time.
Okay, so now
Yeah.
you're 40.
40. Go back to 30 and write your 5-year plan
Okay.
and work towards it. If you want something,
Yeah.
if you want something, really, if you really want something, work for it.
Okay.
If you can't afford it, don't buy it.
Yeah, yeah.
If you really want it,
Good
It's
advice.
huge. Yeah.
if you really want it, work for it.
Yeah.
And
Because you can get it. You just got to work for it.
like I have my one of my peers, he's a very successful businessman and he's been with me for 15 years ish and anyways I was telling him because I've done pretty well for myself in my recovery coming from homelessness, right? So he he uh he said, Roland, that's not your money, and he slammed his hand down on the table and it makes sense. It's easy to spend money that's not yours. It's easy to if you have a good credit rating, which I've worked hard at, they'll throw lots of money at you,
Hmm.
Mhm.
but that's not your money.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sure we've all, like, I'm sure you guys have made mistakes in that area too, right? Like,
Yep.
um, it's easy to overspend and stuff. And now I'm sounding like my parents.
So some financial literacy.
Yeah.
By the time you're 30, you should understand money and how it works and credit and all that kind of stuff, correct?
Well, and they should teach the self-esteem stuff and all that self-worth stuff in school too, and money management, all the life skills stuff. Why don't they teach that stuff in school?
Do you really think that they should teach that in school, or is that the mother and the father's job?
I'd say both.
Like, I mean, I remember going to school 1,000 years ago, and we learned math and we learned geography and English, whatever the hell that was. I guess that's writing. I'm not even sure. I can't even remember the subjects and what exactly they were. But I went to school and I learned typing on an actual typewriter.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now I didn't have to do this. I just hit a button and it went back. But this is how long ago I went to school. I'm just trying to think now that the teachers that I had, except for one, his name was Mr. Colada. I called him Mr. Pena Colada. He was my grade 6 teacher, Happy Thought in East Selkirk. I don't remember having a single teacher that I would have thought would be qualified to teach me any real life skills.
Uh-huh.
They're good at reciting and vomiting shit out of a textbook and being like, okay, sit down and write a quiz. But I don't know if I would want them teaching me what a mortgage is, what an interest rate is, how compound interest, how to invest money. I just don't think they're qualified for that.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure if I agree that teachers should do that. I think that's probably a bad
Right.
way to get that information.
Well,
You
and
know.
like like right away you would get into a lot of different you could go off track really really easy. Like
Hmm.
teachers have to stay on point, especially with what they're teaching, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's exactly right. So, and they give them this criminal like, do you still need to know geography? You still need to go and learn geography. You still need to learn writing.
Yes.
Like, why? Like, I've seen your
Because
writing. You never learned how to do it, but all we do is
I
type,
I can
right?
write a
Yeah.
book,
Like, what?
and if I didn't wasn't taught that and I think that high school and everything is meant to give you the basics. The life skills you got to learn outside of that. They have a curriculum that they must follow. It's just like everything else. They got to follow
There's
whatever's
got to be
given
a
to them.
process.
They
There's
got
got
to
to
give
be
you
a
some
plan.
basics. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like they taught me how to play basketball. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? But I was out there shooting hoops, but they taught me the formalities of it.
I
So I
think the
think that
biggest thing about school and those years is not necessarily the content,
yeah,
it's the action.
yeah.
Following through, being at your class, being on time,
Yeah.
all that kind of structure, routine, consistency.
Hmm.
And through that, you either make the team or you don't. You
Mhm.
Yeah.
know what I mean? If you're in phys ed, you either make the team or you don't. If you're hockey, you either make the team or you don't. But if you're not there and you don't show up and you're not on time, well, you're not going to be on the team, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really just the basic fundamentals of living life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think that's probably correct. Did he answer your 40-year-old advice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go
Which
back
will
to 30.
go back to
So
30.
what are you telling yourself at 50?
1 year, buddy. In one
Um,
year.
I don't know. I'm just, the last couple years, um, I'm really I've really feel like I found myself
Mhm.
and I'm nice and calm. Things are good.
Mhm.
I have a handful of friends. I'm all good. And I met 3.5 years ago. I met a really good woman, solid as they come.
Hmm.
And I stayed single for 10 years, right? And I'm just dating, just casually dating. It's all good, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, um, and it's reciprocated, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad I took the sacrifice. And at 50 years old, like coming up on 50, it's crazy. Like, I feel like I've accomplished everything I've set out to do.
Yeah.
And I guess from that point on, since I was about maybe 45 years old, I've had the mindset where, you know what? Like I've accomplished everything I've set out to do. Maybe I'm not where I'm at, but I'm working towards it. And from this point on, everything is just a bonus.
Yeah. You've been married twice?
Not once.
Once.
Yeah.
You've been married once. So we had a little section that we put in here about some marriage advice. You want to throw that in there?
Go ahead.
Get a little
Yeah.
something, something.
Oh, great.
We'll wrap up the
I
podcast
was
here.
married once when I was 21 years old,
Okay.
and
So probably the worst time to get
I
married with
failed
21, right?
miserably. The only
Okay.
thing that wasn't a failure is that I'm still able to be best friends with my
That's
ex-wife.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty amazing. So how did we're not going to get into getting married, we know why that's wrong, but how did you manage to maintain a friendship with your wife that you married at 21?
Well, I think that her and her mom, they were always there for me since I was a little kid,
Okay.
and she's just a very together, solid. Like her and her family, they have a strong Christian faith, and it's not my thing, but I respect their thing.
Sure.
My son's the same way, and it shows in their family, right?
Hmm.
Very structured, a very committed, traditional family. Something to be said about that, right? And my ex-wife being so grounded and like she had every reason to hate me, but we're great friends and I'm really lucky I lucked out that way. And you know how that transferred is, and I think they're gonna be making this a through line in the movie too about female relationships and a guy like me. And all my best friends are women for the majority of it, and
Really?
they're all the same personality types, and they're very strong together. They don't take no shit. They'll put me in my place, in 2 seconds,
Yeah.
and we all and my male friends are like that too. The few close ones that I have, um, maybe 4 or 5, it's all about respect, right?
Yeah.
And
So that would that be your advice? So I'm gonna hit you with give me some marriage tips. How do you keep a happy marriage?
I don't, you know what? Like, I don't know.
All right. So what
I
do you do? What did you do wrong then? How about that?
I partied and picked everything over and above my marriage.
Okay.
Hmm.
And everything was more important than at that point than my wife and my kid.
Should you make your wife your number one priority? Should you make your whole life around your wife?
Um, I think once that's strengthened, I think that everything else is a bonus.
Hmm.
Just like I was talking about, you got to pick one or two things that you need to have as a priority, and
Hmm.
everything else, then it bleeds into everything else,
Yeah.
and it just becomes everything just becomes a nice bonus,
Yeah.
and
If you're gonna get into a partnership, at least put some effort into it.
yeah, like I'm by no means like again any like I know that I, especially the women in my life, I believe in my heart of all hearts, uh, not always, but mostly, I believe women are the stronger species, and that's my experience in my life. And I'm not being all like whatever, but like that's been my experience. The women have always been the stronger nurturers and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff, and the stronger species. I pick really strong women, and all my best friends, like I said, are women.
Hmm.
Uh, most of them, anyways. But yeah, and a lot of the men, not all, because I have a lot of really good men in my life too.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of balances itself out.
Well, that's kind of what we do here. Is so this gym is primarily women, and the workouts that we write, I would say, would put any man on their ass. Like
Yeah.
they're designed. Olivia came here. We had boxers come. They're just like that was a tough workout.
Yeah.
And the majority of the people that come here are women, and so Rick and I are trying to be an
So what?
inspirational for men to, not just sit around and watch, right? Like,
So what happened to you two? Do you guys don't work out at all?
oh my God, don't even make me take my shirt off there, okay? So, so that's what we want to do is that a lot of men we idolize other men, but we don't really do anything about it. We love
Yeah.
Tom Brady because he's a phenomenal quarterback for the Tampa Bay
In
Buccaneers
his
in his
40s.
40s, right? But
Yeah.
then, yeah, you're watching that guy, but you idolize that guy. But why don't you do something like that guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what we want to do is we want to get guys off the couch, just going through their 9 to 5, kind of mumming out when they get home, hitting the bottle. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like being those guys that aren't doing anything with their life.
At the end of the day, you know what? It's an inside job, and you're either motivated or you're not. And
Mhm.
like, you can't do anything. You guys are bringing about awareness, and whatever you do, what you got to do, and like, like it's just a personal thing. It's about the man in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
I feel like a lot of like to further to your point here. I feel like a lot of men value themselves based on the income that they bring in.
Yeah.
And or what they can provide. And I think men have completely lost focus of taking care of themselves and making themselves a priority, especially
and
in the health space.
Mhm.
You know,
just because monetary things and money, it doesn't give you the right to um, adopt the sense of entitlement into your life.
Mhm.
You're not entitled because you have more. I know more happy homeless people.
yeah,
Mhm.
I
You
agree.
know what
Sure.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I sit with them, and
Yeah.
they're happy, and then sometimes I talk to them, and I ask questions, and they're all, well, Roland, I'm perfectly happy being homeless.
Mhm.
I have no responsibilities. I do what I want when I want. Nobody bugs me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have to have any drama in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
So
I'm happy.
let's wrap up the podcast on that. So forget about the marriage advice for a second because I think
Mhm.
that's important. So the whole world has this homeless problem now, right? And everybody's trying to solve the homeless problem.
I think it's always been around. It's just highlighted now.
Do homeless people all want to be in homes? Like I feel like your point is very valid that some people are just cool living that minimal lifestyle. Like I'm fine being here. Like do we
Well,
need to solve the problem? Is
it
there a problem to be solved?
it's hard to speak for them.
Everybody. Yeah.
It's hard to speak for people because
Mhm.
everybody has their own individual experience. But
But at least, but you have some insight. So in the people that you came across or that you communicated with, is everybody like, oh, I hate being on the streets. I wish I had a home, or some people like, nah, I love it here, man. It's okay.
both,
Both,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
and like
but not more
me,
one than the other.
I was, when I was wandering around aimlessly and like, with my bags. There wasn't I never had a bad backpack, but with my bags and stuff, and wanted nowhere to go, and like I was miserable. I wanted to die every minute, and like I felt like like I always wanted more for myself, and moreover, I wanted to be a provider for my son. Like I went when I got sober, all my like before that, all my drugs went, my money went to drugs and alcohol and stuff, and I ended up owing my ex-wife $9,000 in child support. She wanted her money. You know what I mean? And I had to work my ass off, but I paid her down to $3,000 after I got sober. I worked my ass off. It was very important to me, right? Because I turned into a deadbeat dad because of drugs and alcohol. And I finally paid all my child support. I paid it down to 3,000, and my ex-wife said, "Okay, Roland, that's enough."
Uh,
and
so that's when you became accountable for yourself.
and you know what? That's what we were talking about with the
Yeah.
successes and stuff and
Yeah.
the 5-year plans and stuff. Like, it's really important to, I let so much go because of drugs and alcohol, and it's not who I was. I was physically addicted to alcohol.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up there. A couple things that I want to rehash here. So, never, if you're the recipient of abuse, you don't necessarily have to blame your parents later on in life. Problems get solved with growth and maturity. Don't eat yellow snow. Tell someone if you're being bullied or molested, and if you have Botox, you're not allowed at Roland's gym.
Hey, I have one more thing.
Okay, close. Okay.
Both you guys have the perfect face for radio.
Yeah. We'll give you another one of those too. All right, we're out of here, guys. Fit Club Media. Subscribe to the channel. Watch our podcast every Thursday.
Yeah.